Holy crap. Corrections and Institutions Committee. I'm so used to my own committee.
Yes,
And it is February 5th. It's 1:45 PM. And we are continuing our work with the Victims Notification System. And this afternoon, we're going to have Department of Corrections, Meredith Pelkey and Ashley Fisk that are going to testify. So whoever is going first, welcome to sit in the seat.
Are you gonna?
You're going to tag team or?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay.
But there,
But whoever's testifying has to be in the middle seat.
okay, we can sit there.
And then, as with the last, make sure you just, identify yourself for the record and when, you're ready, you can go.
Great. Thank you for having us. My name is Meredith Pelkey, and I'm the Director of Victim Services for Department of Corrections. And we wanted to start today by just telling you all a little bit about what we do at Victim Services for DOC. So that's what I'm going to start with. And then Ashley, who's been managing the VINE system for years, is going to talk about the victim notification system. So the Vermont Department of Corrections established the Victim Services Unit in January 1999, and it was to provide victims with information, support, and opportunities to participate in the post-adjudication process. The VSU, which is the Victim Services Unit, is dedicated to ensuring that victims, survivors, and their families are heard and supported throughout the offender's post-conviction journey. And some of the services we provide are in the post-conviction process are providing information. So just sharing information, non-protected information with victims about conditions and level of compliance. Release planning, so listening to concerns. A victim may, have real concerns about the offender being released into a county. And so we will bring that information forward if there's a parole hearing. We do parole notifications. We also help support victims during parole hearings. We assist them if they wish to participate live, they can do that. If they want to write a letter, they're allowed to do that. And they can also meet with the parole board without the offender there. So that's another service we offer. We also, in our unit, have restorative justice opportunities for victims. And those are victim impact panels. We also do victim offender dialogue if a victim requests that. And we also have an apology letter bank that we are currently revamping and, bringing kind of back to life. The other thing that we do is we manage the Vermont Automated Notification System. And Ashley is going to talk to you about that. And what that does is notifies victims of status changes, hearings, releases, and other movement within the system. So I talked a little bit about the parole board participation. So, they're welcome to appear in person to the parole board. They can submit a written statement. And they're also allowed to meet privately with the board, which I talked about a little bit before. And the structure of our unit is pretty small. There's me, the Victim Services Director. There's Ashley, who's the Senior Victim Service Specialist. And then we have 4 Victim Service Specialists around the state. And Haley, I don't know if you included the map. I just showed the map. But there's a map with coverage and who covers what area. So that's what we do. And Ashley's going to come up and talk a little bit about the VINE system and how that works.
Hey everyone, thank you. I'm Ashley Fisk with Victim Services for DOC. I've been managing the VINE program for several years. I've been with DOC for 19, but haven't been managing it that long, but certainly a long time. So just a little bit of background. The VINE system was implemented in 2010 because DOC is statutorily obligated to notify victims of status changes. and we weren't meeting those needs. So we purchased this system and did a lot of research and worked with them. And so that is what we're using to notify victims of any status changes. We've made, since its implementation, DOC has made significant investments to ensure accurate data flow between systems. Data is not always easily shared, or it doesn't always work very well. And I'm not a data person, so I'm not going to talk much about that, but I just know it doesn't always do what we want. So we have been working to make significant investments to ensure accurate data flow between the systems and timely victim notifications. We continue to improve and upgrade the system, focusing on refining the timing and content of notifications to make them clearer and more understandable for victims and survivors. So we do work with a language person in Kentucky who's part of the company. The company is called Apris that provides this system to us. So they work with us around the language in our notifications. We haven't changed the language in a while, so we are looking at that. We're going to be working with other states' attorneys, victim advocates to kind of update that language to make sure it's very clear to all Vermonters, anybody who's really receiving it, that they understand what's being said. So we do, that's very important. VINE provides the most up-to-date information on an offender's status. So current custody statuses include incarcerated, community supervision, parole, release, and that can be like a max release, court notifications, and return to custody notifications. VINE is an important tool that victims can use for safety planning, offering immediate notifications that allow them to take necessary precautions to protect themselves and their families. So a notification can be triggered by a booking code, and the system in Kentucky sweeps our database every 15 minutes. So that a notification, if there is a victim that is registered, a notification would go out to them within 15 minutes of a booking code going in. So it's very timely. Each notification includes a contact number so that victims can reach us directly. Meredith and I manage the VINE line 24/7. We manage it on the weekends as well. So it might not be an immediate call back, but when we get a message, we do try and make sure that we're reaching out to victims so that they don't have to wait an entire weekend not knowing what's going on. The notification, the VINE line also offers victims the opportunity to speak with someone directly. So just said that. When the statute was created, there was no mechanism for DOC to collect victim information directly. So to address this, access to VINE was provided to the state's attorneys and advocates so that they could enter victim contact information into the system. However, this process has its limitations as there is no consistent expectation of communication or information sharing. While the VINE system was originally developed for DOC to meet our statutory obligations, it can be used throughout the entire criminal justice continuum to notify victims of status changes.
Oh, I was just raising my hand.
Oh, okay.
When you're done.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so can you explain to us what, as there's no consistent expectations of communication or information sharing?
That was my question as well.
So there's no way for, we don't get the victim contact information. And so we rely on those who have it before us to put it into VINE. So that when we do get ready to do release planning or there's a parole hearing, we have that information. Right now, when that happens, if it's not in VINE, we reach out to the state's attorneys, victim advocates, and then they provide it to us if they have it, and then we enter it.
But I just want to say, as you can kind of see with the caseloads that they currently have, that's a heavy lift for them as well.
Mhm.
So we've been talking about VINE, finding a way, and our vendor has told us it's possible to sweep their system for victim contact information. So, I mean, that would be
so great.
yeah, I mean, that would be a lot of planning. I mean, they haven't implemented their new system yet, but that's definitely something we would be interested in pursuing.
You need to introduce yourself.
Sorry, Meredith Pelkey, Director of Victim Services.
So that would be something that we could do. the other thing is that we rely on Vine to store our victim contact information. Even if someone is not wanting to register for notifications, we still need that victim information. There's a note section in Vine, and that's where we would store the victim contact information. And so we would have a note in there that says, Megan Place wants to be notified of release only. So she might not want all the other notifications. We are working on possibly getting, when we first started, we had options. So victims could decide what notifications they wanted. So if they just wanted release or just wanted parole, they could click on that. That wasn't being utilized. So then the platform changed. So it went to all notifications or nothing. Oh, sorry.
So on that, so there's a note you said, so it's not automatically going to them,
No,
but something on your end triggers and says, hey, this person's being released, so I need to notify or look into the chart and see if victim A wants to be notified. So are there failures on the sense of somebody getting notified that doesn't want to be, and also on the other side of where somebody wanted to be and they didn't? I know you might not have exact numbers, but does these things happen?
I think they can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no system's gonna be perfect, and there are things that happen. I mean, Vine relies on booking codes.
Yeah.
And so there are times where they are booked out wrong and a victim gets a notification, but every notification has our number on it and they immediately will call us. So yes, those things do happen.
Oh, sorry.
No,
When I say that there's a note section, so what happens is when it's time for parole hearings or release planning, the caseworker would go into Vine and they would look to see if anybody is registered. If nobody's registered, they would scroll down to the bottom and they would see the note section that says Megan only wants to be notified of this. And so they would reach out. That's our safest way of holding victim contact information.
thank you. Joe?
So are victims assigned a specialist based on where they reside? And if so, how does it work when they move jurisdictions or move out of state?
So we have, as you can see, we all cover a certain area. So yeah, so the victim service specialist that covers that area is the one that works with the victim in that area. And then if they move, we decide whether or not if they're moved to another county, and I'm covering that county, we would decide, do I take it or does the VSS that originally had it, does she want to keep it because she's built a rapport with the victim? So it's all about what's best for the victim. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Will, do you want to ask your question?
I didn't have a question.
No, from earlier.
Oh, from earlier. Oh, goodness.
So
I'm already blanking on the question. I know we said, I remember, I said to hold it to me. Remember? No,
it's about earn time.
I believe it was. I'm trying to remember because I had another earn time question that I
Okay.
didn't want to ask here, but
Do you want me to talk about earn time a little bit in the notification? Would that
Yeah.
maybe trigger your?
yeah, it might.
Yeah.
So in all of our notifications say that an offender is eligible. It doesn't say this offender is eligible. It says an offender is eligible for earn time. Because there's no way to know what offenders are eligible in the cases. So we and also providing a victim with a monthly notification on earn time would be very traumatizing. I don't believe that there's a smooth way that earn time gets entered in. And so it's not like this, the first of the month, they'll get a notification and that'll be it. It could be a couple of weeks into the month and then they process that and then they get another call. And let's be honest, those calls, those text messages and those emails, they're triggering. I mean, they're always going to make you feel uneasy because you just don't know. And so we really rely on victims to call us. We don't want to give really specific information. One, we can't. I don't think any notification system would be able to. There's HIPAA protected information in there. But also we need victims to call us because in Vermont, as you know, they can get out on probation. They can get out on parole or furlough, and every case is different. And so having that conversation with the victim to let them know, this is what it's going to look like. And, we also want to make sure that the victims are getting that notification about earn time, that they know about it. We have, like I said, that notification on every notification that goes out, but also on our websites. And then there's a link to the Vine website that brings them to our offender locator where they can look up that information. So it does take, they do have to do a couple things, but that information, we've kind of plastered it everywhere so that we're not traumatizing them every few weeks with a notification.
And for committee people, not a value judgment of the system or whether it's good or bad, but just the basic math. 7 days a month sounds, like seven's not that big. It's 3 months out of a year. So I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just telling that's what the math is, 3 months a year. So if you're at 10 years, it's 30 months. So that's where a lot of this can be triggering for people, just different notifications will change and then, to whatever. So I don't want to get too far in it, but just the math of it is,
Yeah.
these people don't always extrapolate out how that turns out to real math.
It does, yeah, and it's not like just DOC calculations, like our math, like we have to go by what, policy procedure the courts are saying, so it's not us, that just gets to kind of randomly,
You're the messenger.
yeah, we are just the messenger.
I know we had talked about this before, and so the integration, the potential integration, have you guys talked about, you've had some communication about at least internally, about potential ways to integrate with them?
Yes.
Have you talked about cost or how that will look, or any of those deeper conversations, or has it just been up at this level, like it would be kind of nice to have it, but
I'm gonna let Meredith.
Yeah, I can kind of speak to that. So
thank God you're here, Mary.
I know, very cozy. So we have talked about, on a higher level with folks about integrating, Vine into, and I think we'll bring up the, continuum so we can kind of look at it of where Vine could be utilized. Vine could do a lot of things. Vine could, work with the courts to send out court notifications. Vine could, work with their system to register victims automatically if they wanted to. I mean, there's lots of things that we're being told Vine does in other states that we don't do. But I think, Vine has worked really closely with us for years. We have a lot of faith in the system. I mean, no system is ever going to be perfect, but we really think that we could utilize Vine a lot more than we do in this state.
And that's interesting, because that was one of my other questions, and I don't want to be the only one asking questions. They know how I feel about that, but was it a technology problem or is it different? So you're saying it has a lot more capacity or capabilities than we're using, so it's not necessarily that the computer part, the software, whatever, is not the problem. It's
Right.
other things that are.
Well, and
You
I
got-
do have to also say, it's only as good as the data we have.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So more human stuff.
Yeah.
I will.
I do remember my question.
Thank
Now, I was writing out my frustration and then it popped into my head. I remember I'd asked about the estimation of how much a new system would cost. What would you
Oh.
guys project that?
Oh, I don't know about a new system.
Yeah, Meredith
How much?
Pelkey. So we wouldn't even know. I mean, we know what it costs us for our portion of why we got Vine in the first place. We don't know what it would cost. We'd have to do, I guess Vine would have to work with, the state's attorneys to figure out like what information they need, what do they want to send out for alerts? So it would, I guess we don't know.
Then I'll ask a second part of that question. How much does it cost to operate Vine right now as it is
I think,
on your end?
Not even one person's salary.
I think it's
believe.
40,000.
About 40.
40 to.
We can get you the
Yeah,
exact
we can,
number.
it's very, I shouldn't say very affordable, but it's affordable for,
Do you happen to know whose software it is? Is it Oracle SQL or do you happen to know?
It's Apris,
Yeah.
right?
yep, and they just, the Apris Equifax now.
So that would be another question. So again, the conversation is about integration in some way. Is there opposition to that in DOC, or is there a thought that would be something you guys are into having a stronger integration with like a same system? I don't know how to word the thing, but
Yeah.
I think we're interested in having working together to try and get this one to do what everyone wants, but Vine is doing exactly what it should be doing.
For
It-
DOC.
For DOC, yeah.
the system is, but
Yeah.
the interaction
It's-
between the
yeah.
two entities is what I mean.
But let me speak to that.
Yeah,
Mayor
sure.
Pelkey. We would love to be able to help reduce the workload for state's attorneys, victims advocates, if possible. I mean, I think that we would love to work, with them on, maybe having our vendors come and talk with them about what it could look like. Our vendors did come and talk at a meeting, that we had with some of the Savas. But, I guess we would have to know like what they would want. And, but we would be totally open to it. We want to work together.
And that's what we kind of wanted to know, because I mean, even, really, it's not about, I mean, it is about your workloads. I don't think it's the wrong way, but it's more about making sure the victims are,
Absolutely.
it's this thing, that's the real thing.
Yeah.
So, all right. Are there any other questions? Sean?
It's more of a bigger picture thing. Are we talking of like, so they spoke about the, earn time.
Mhm.
Are we discussing earn time as a thing that's good or bad, or?
No, we're
It's
discussing,
just-
as far as the system goes, how earn time, not whether the policy itself is good or bad, but how it affects the victims and how the Vine system does that.
Because you're not going to change the earn time thing.
Well,
That's staying the way it is.
No, that's, well, Troy, why don't you?
Well, we had a bill last year that would have extended earn time to folks on parole. Because right now, folks on parole don't get this earn time. And some people stay incarcerated because they want the earn time. So we were talking about, would it make sense to add that to folks who are on parole? We actually had it in a bill, and then that watered down into this study. We're hearing loud and clear, I am anyway, that the study happened, and we're being told that that would be a pretty disastrous sort of, it would have a significant impact on the victims.
Yeah.
If we.
But like, so
now, and then that verged into this. And not only would it have an impact because of how it would impact Vine, but it would have an impact emotionally,
Right.
and re-victimization on the victims. So it has merged now into this conversation about, is Vine doing what we need it to do?
But I'm just wondering if earn time's doing what we need it to do.
That's a bigger question.
Yeah, it's not something we won't or can't talk about. It's really not what this is.
Okay. I just thought,
It
just wanted to,
this is based on.
that's
that.
what's bugging me.
This is based on that.
Yeah.
But that's a larger
Yep.
conversation too. Yeah.
And I've been thinking here, like, is there a policy fix here for the concerns with Vine? Aside from personnel, right? I don't know what the policy fix here is. Yeah.
Can I just,
Go
say,
ahead.
for us, the only way for victims to get any updated information is if their contact information is in Vine. So even if they're not registered, if it's not in that note section, the turnaround for when these offenders can be released, we don't have a lot of time to notify victims sometimes. And so if that information isn't in Vine, it's a lot of time trying to find that. And so if it's not in there, there's no way for victims to get notifications moving forward.
So that's another question then. And I don't know who's the one to talk about this. How often do people opt out of, any kind of notification? Are there people that like it's, I don't know.
I think that there are people that don't understand how it works. And so they do decide to opt out because they don't know all the details of it. Also, I get the whole wanting someone's permission to put their contact information in Vine. Vine is a confidential, just our staff have access and the state's attorneys, victim advocates have access. And again, if that information doesn't get in the notes section, there's no way that we're going to be able to notify them of anything. So that could, any type of status change.
Kevin?
But if it's in the notes section, a person has to read that,
Mhm.
right? As opposed to if it's in a database, and the database can give you that information automatically based on
Yeah.
coding. So putting notes in there is a laborious way of handling
And so we
information.
have some, yeah,
And I'll bet you the redundancy of the information and the different databases you have is huge. If you had one SQL database, you could all access it. I mean, that's 30-year-old technology.
And I can actually use it.
And it would make your lives so much easier.
yes.
Any other questions? I mean, obviously, we have a lot more questions on the higher level of whether,
I could go down that road for a while.
I gotta, we're not gonna go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Any other questions on this, like this particular issue? Thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Share your frustration.
And we can go offline. Just a second.